which is the Knowledge Center for Organic Agriculture. I'm very happy to be one of the facilitators. I'm going to basically be sharing my own experience as a farmer and as a business person in entrepreneurship within the space of organic markets. Thank you very much.
Good morning, viewers. My name is Samuel Dungo. I'm also part of the Master's Trainers. I work with the Kenya Organic Agriculture Network as a programs manager. I've been doing a facilitation for organic certification for like 15 years now. So I'm going to share my experience on how you can do organic certification, but also talk about participatory guarantee system and how you can set up a PGS and run it. So welcome, and I'll be doing our presentation later after Sylvia. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
Sylvia, now it's the mantle is on you. We'll now take up this session.
Okay, thank you very much and welcome to everybody. So I'm going to be sharing my experience in organic markets and trade. So I would like us to start off by there. So want to start off by just asking the question about what are organic products? And basically here we're just talking about products that are grown under a system of agriculture, which is what we employ, without the use of chemical fertilizers and pesticides, and thinking about our environment and being socially responsible. So, you know, when you think about different terminologies, I think this was the one that I think felt that it really covered about what is organic produce, and very similar to the issue of agroecology and what is agroecology and how.
Sylvia, a minute.
Yeah?
We cannot see your presentation.
Oh, really?
Yes, you have not shared.
Yeah, we can't see it. So please share.
Oh, okay. 1 minute. I thought it was there. I think 1 minute. So
Maybe normal, you can just share for her so that we proceed.
has it come now?
Yes, you can put it in presentation mode and then proceed.
Sure. I'm sorry about that. I think there's an issue with the internet at some point. Okay, so we go back to what are organic products. So now I think we are together. So I'm just going to go through this slide again. Basically, we are talking about organic products are grown under a system of agriculture without the use of chemical fertilizers and pesticides, and thinking about our environment. Very similar to the definition of agroecology, which I normally share with farmers. You know, what is agroecology? Think about agro is like agricultural systems and agriculture, and ecology is how different parts of the environment interact with each other. So basically agroecology is actually also farming, putting nature into consideration. So that's very similar to what we're doing in organic, in terms of we care about our nature, we care about people, we care about how the food is grown, and we don't use any chemical fertilizers or pesticides. So I'm going to be sharing some statistics that my brother Ndongo has been sharing with me over time. You know, Kwan has done a lot of research in organic markets, why people are buying and how they buy. And, you know, I'm not able to go through all the statistics and research that they are put together, but I'll share a few. But I found this very interesting on why consumers buying organic produce. So they did a study and they were comparing Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, and Burundi. And you can see in Kenya, actually, let me try and see if I can get the whatever out. But for Kenyans, we are mainly buying organic because we don't want to eat any food with chemicals, which makes a lot of sense because we've had a lot of exposure, especially in the media, on the negative effects of chemical fertilizers and how people are not growing the food very well and using a lot of pesticides. There's been lots of like reports on that. So you find that most Kenyans are actually not taking organic because of the chemical. And number two, we see in Kenya, we're also not taking organic because of our health issues. And it's true because many of my customers normally call because they say the doctor has told them that they have to eat organic so they can be back to health. So we're also looking for good health. And also the issue of no pesticides is also quite major for Kenya because, you know, there's been a lot of exposure on indiscriminate pesticide use, whereby we have laws and regulations, but basically they are not enforced. And then also here, when you think about why are we, you know, buying organic, you find that it's also the consumers who are actually driving the organic markets. In this picture that I got from FIBOL, FIBOL have put together organic manuals, and one of them is the organic markets. Maybe as we come to the end of this presentation, we can share more about FIBOL. But when you think about this presentation, you find that when you actually have organic, I mean, there are two things that you can see in this picture. The gentleman on the left, you can see has a very nice stall, and you know, he has it well labeled where it's guaranteed organic, natural, no pesticides. And by the way, in our farmer markets, like the one we have in Moranga, in Kenya, in Kangari, it's a beautiful market whereby, you know, the farmers actually have a nice label that says the produce is organic. They have good shelves. And then also the fact that you're also able to educate the consumers, you know, that this food is good, it's natural, it doesn't have any pesticides, and the person has also cared for animals. And you can see our friend on the right, he's not so happy because he's saying that, you know, his friend is actually doing much better business because he has good quality, he has fair price, and his products are available, nicely presented, and well communicated. So I also feel that in as much as, you know, we are going for organic because of looking for health, you also find that the consumers are actually the ones who are driving organic markets. And also, when we think about farmers, most farmers are actually trying to produce their produce to meet the family's needs. But then also, they need to also know that there's also potential that they can also sell their produce also to the market. So we are working under our brand name, Sylvia's Basket. We are working with about 25 to 30 farmers, suppliers produce every week. And one thing I find about organic farmers is they always grow food for their family's needs, and then they normally sell the surplus to the market. So here we're talking about, self-sufficiency versus market-oriented farming. You're not only going to grow for yourself, but as a farmer, if you're able to, you're also able to meet the needs of the market and sell your surplus to the market. So I want to talk about different aspects in the market, and I'd like to talk about the short food supply chain. So here I am. One of our customers had given us her garden here in Nairobi, and she told us, just bring your produce to my garden and we can sell it from there. So it has really worked out quite well, whereby apart from selling at the shop, I'll talk about retail a bit later, but here I want to emphasize how long or how far does your food travel from the farm to your plate? I don't know whether you've ever asked yourself that. Before you bite into, I know we love apples and there's nothing wrong. By the way, this week we have organic apples from one of our farmers in Kinagop. So if you want apples, call me. But I find that, we eat food without putting into consideration how long did this food travel. And when you think about growing organic markets that are sustainable, one of the things we have to consider is that food has to travel the shortest distance as possible from the farm to your plate. I don't think it's very sustainable for us to be eating fruits or food that has been grown, thousands and thousands of miles away. Imagine being here in Kenya and eating a fruit from Singapore. Does it make any sense? By the time it leaves the farmer, it goes to the bus, then it goes to the airport, and then it's sorted out, and then it comes through maybe 2 airports before it lands in Nairobi. Then it goes to the distributor, and then it comes to my shop, and then to your plate. It doesn't make any sense. And I think for us, we need to really think on, as we grow organic markets, we need to think about farmer markets, farm shops like the one we have, a box scheme, which is how I started as Sylvia's Basket, whereby I just put all my produce from the farm and then bring it out to the city to sell to my friends. The community-supported agriculture is not very common in Kenya. I don't know if Dongo is going to talk about it a bit, but then basically it's where a community is able to, say, for example, if we get, like a group of farmers in Limuru, we put ourselves together, and then the local community is able to actually buy from us and say, we're buying from the Limuru organic farmers, similar to what is happening in Kangari, but this one is a bit more organized. And then having cooperative movements, you find that in Africa, I think historically, cooperative movements are mainly with milk and coffee. And we keep thinking, and tea, how can we get cooperative movements for organic market? That's a potential that will actually be able to increase the short food supply chains and reduce the distance that food has to grow, that at least the food that you are growing using environmental concerns is actually not going to damage the environment by having to travel for thousands of miles. And then farm to fork, that's me harvesting some beans for one of my customers. The example of Sylvia's Basket, there are some things to consider which are not very easy sometimes, but you have to think about, how am I able to manage my organic farm? What about pricing? I'll talk about some of these issues. What about logistics? And the unfortunate thing in Kenya is that most farmers are not able to access markets because of the logistical nightmare that so many farmers have to go through, and wondering, how will I transport my very nice tomatoes from Kirinyaga to Nairobi? And for them to arrive in a good state, it's not very easy. Logistics is a huge, huge headache, and I know it's one of the bottlenecks to organic markets, but we are working on it. And then, do we have a planting program in terms of who is planting what? Let me tell you, people, at the end of this season, I know 100%. Like so many farmers are going to call me, and all of them are going to have spinach and skuma wiki and wondering how to sell it. And they all want to sell it to me at the same time. One thing, we encourage farmer groups, come up with planting programs, decide who is planting what. Of course, plant seasonal, but decide who is planting what and when, so that at least you always have produce all year round. And then we've been struggling with unpredictable weather patterns, but still managing somehow, by being able to, put in different strategies like water harvesting, different agroecological practices. I don't want to talk about that. You've learned about soil, you've learned about seed, you've learned about all those things. But just basically knowing that even if the weather is unpredictable, you still need to be able to keep the farm to fork principle of being able to grow organic produce and get it to the markets. So for us, when we started off, we started with home delivery baskets. That's me with one of the farmers. So I basically just would put all the produce in my boot, and then I go around Nairobi selling it to friends and family, who are the ones who started off with me when I started the business. And this is a low-hanging fruit. And I'm so excited to see that quite a number of people who are starting organic markets are actually employing the home delivery baskets. It's a wonderful way of selling organic produce. It's very affordable. It doesn't cost too much. And the logistical nightmare is not too high, because especially if you're able to grow a variety of produce. At that time, I was growing about 20 different vegetables on my farm. So because I had a variety of produce, I was able to sell quite a bit, and it works out very well as one of the options for organic markets. And then we talked about the issue of logistics and marketing. For us, we are lucky we have a logistics partner. We are working with Wells Fargo, who are able to transport our produce from all over Kenya. Very simple for us to get our produce. But then another thing we do is that I use social media marketing. At the end of this presentation, I'm going to share all my social media handles. I'd like all of you to please share and actually follow us online. But that is how we manage to sell organic produce. You need to be able to get a logistic partner, and you need to be able to have a marketing plan. And for us, we are very lucky to live in this day and age where social media has really blown up, and it's very simple for us to access a number of customers just by using social media tools. So you can see Carol, my colleague there, smiling with a nice big basket of vegetables. This is how we sell. We normally just take a picture, we share about the story, then we share a lot of stories. We share about farmers, how did the produce get to us? We normally do a lot of consumer education, but just making use of these tools to make sure that we are able to market and let as many people know that organic produce is available. And then something else we have to also consider is quality. You know, I don't know, this is a small discussion we can have maybe at the end of my presentation, maybe for 2 or 5 minutes, if anyone has a comment. Many people normally like buying organic because, of course, we've talked about the health. But if you're going to a conventional market, I normally find it very interesting that when people want to buy organic in a conventional market and are not sure the source of the produce, and I hear this from many of my customers, they look for the sukuma wiki that has an insect, the spinach that has a hole. They look for the deformed produce because they know this produce, chances are very high that it wasn't oversprayed with chemicals. And by the way, it's a wonderful indicator for you to actually keep safe and know that you're buying good produce. But then I think we are also moving, and we need to learn how to move to the next step. That organic should not only look terrible in the market, but it should have quality. And that's the one thing we are really working very, 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 very hard. It's not easy, but we really struggle, especially as Sylvia's basket, that we actually should have good items that are quality. They are free of contaminants, as you can see in this slide, have high nutritional value. They taste good, are free from additives. They look nice and are well packaged and are clearly labeled. So we've been working with Koan through the Kilimo Hai mark to actually see how we can better label organic, how we can package it in a better way. And now the onus is on us as farmers to make sure that we are also growing quality produce. We have our input providers. We have so many opportunities for us to have quality produce. So I understand that it's been some time whereby produce was not looking so good, because that's the only way consumers could know this was organic, because you can tell that the intervention in terms of chemicals has been very low or none. And that makes it attractive for many people to take. So anyway, there we go. We are working on quality requirements. So let's talk about demand versus price. This is SAT Organic Shop in Morogoro. Got to visit a beautiful, beautiful farmers shop where they're selling organic produce. And we need to think about the demand versus the price. For us as Sylvia's Basket, we have really tried to make organic produce as affordable as possible. Many of our produce, or quite a chunk of it, especially the basic produce, is actually the same price as conventional produce, especially our indigenous foods and indigenous vegetables, because those are not very difficult to grow and they're normally locally available, and want to make sure as many people as possible can be able to access organic produce. So when you make organic expensive, what you're basically trying to say is that organic is for the rich, which is not true. When you think about the SDGs and basic human rights, everybody should be able to access safe produce for their themselves, for their family, and for their health. So when you make organic very pricey, you're actually saying that safe produce is for the rich, which is not fundamentally right. When you think about our human rights, everybody should access safe produce. And then when you think about the farmers being able to access markets, if organic farmers make their produce very high, it means they will not be able to access a lot of markets, because who is going to buy from them? because they'll be like, this produce is too expensive. Retailers like me will not buy from them. So we normally encourage organic farmers, please make your produce affordable. When you make it affordable, you make it accessible to most people. And then increase prices. It's going to increase fraud. How is this going to happen? What is going to happen is farmers, like say, for example, let me give you an example of my farmers. Every week, he's very happy that I'm buying from him 20 bunches or 30 bunches of spinach. Then I give him a very nice order. The next week, I tell him, I want 50 bunches of spinach. What will happen? He'll say, unfortunately, I don't have enough spinach. And he's going to see his money flying away. So instead of the money going, he's going to get spinach from the conventional market, sell to me in the brand of organic, and make his money. So when you make organic expensive, and when you buy organic at very, very high prices from farmers, just know you're going to increase fraud. So let's make it fair all the way. We buy from farmers fairly and also sell to the consumers fairly. And my brother Ndongo is going to talk about certification. I don't want to belabor the point about participatory guarantee systems. Ndongo, I know you're going to share more about it, and you'll share with our listeners on how PGS and the Kilimo Hai mark are buffers against fraud and exorbitant prices for organic produce. So I will not talk much about that, but my brother Ndongo is going to talk about it. So I have a retail shop, Sylvia's Basket, and we do a lot of marketing, as I shared, on how we can be able to sell our produce. And retail is one of the most difficult businesses to be in because of the high cost of running the retail business in terms of salaries and rent. It's just a high cost business. But we have found that in our market, in Kenya especially, we still need to work with retail, because retail actually gives us a physical location that creates trust and credibility. Most of my customers have to come to our shop, see that they're real human beings there, and we're not just selling from a corner somewhere. And you actually have a shop, there's produce, they come, they interrogate us. And then after they've interrogated us, they're happy now to have home delivery. And we also find that we are also working with different kinds of clients. So we have young clients like me who want convenience and are happy to have home delivery. For us, we just have to see the produce on Instagram or on Facebook. We place our order and it's delivered to our doorstep. But we also have the older generation that are happy to walk in and actually pick their clients, those who want to actually have the experience of having of going to the market. So we have an opportunity for home delivery, we have an opportunity for walk-in, and we are also able to create trust and credibility when we have a retail shop. It's not easy. We need more retail shops for organic. For us, we are supplying about roughly every week, give or take 100 homes, which is still a small number. We are growing. We want to grow to about 200 homes by the end of the year. So you can imagine the opportunity for organic markets is so wide. I mean, Kenya has Nairobi. You can correct me later, but I think we are between 6 to 7 million population in Nairobi. Can you imagine Sylvia's Basket is serving 0.001% of that population? So we need more people. For those who are listening to us, there's so much potential for organic markets. We have our farmers, and our farmers are actually selling to us only 30 to 40% of their produce comes to organic markets. The rest of the organic produce, can you believe, goes to conventional markets. So we can't say we don't have produce. Produce is there. What we need is people to go into business to sell organic produce. So we have different challenges and opportunities of organic markets, which I'm going to share briefly. I wanted to finish by 10:45 so that you can have a Q&A, and then my brother can take over at 11. So when you think about the different challenges, working capital for a startup is crazy. It's not easy, it's very difficult. And you find many people are not able to start because of the working capital to start it up. But opportunities are coming up, and keep your eyes and ears to the ground. I'm sure opportunities are going to come up, especially for young people listening to me. There are going to be opportunities for us to actually be able to maybe support young people, to actually have working capital to have startups. And then you also find this poor consumer awareness. We talked about quality. Let me bring this up again, that in as much as we're trying to have quality, sometimes our organic produce might not always look beautiful, which is true. But you find that if a consumer finds even a little spot on a single tomato, they'll send it back and say it's not good, but because people don't know. And then also people just don't know what they're eating. People don't take time to actually look at their plates and wonder, okay, how did this food get to my plate? Where was it grown? How was it transported? How did it get to the market? How did it come home? We have poor consumer awareness, and we actually have to work across the value chain with all the value chain actors to make sure that consumers are well aware about what is organic and why it's important. And once we get the consumers, this is a consumer-driven market. Hello? Oh, sorry. Is there someone there? Anyway, this is a consumer driven market. So we need to actually be able to educate the consumers because they're the ones who are driving the market. And then I find that many of us are working in silos. Some people are going to be hearing about Sylvia's Basket for the first time. And then later on, maybe I'm sitting here, there are 3 or 4 other markets that are doing organic. I have no idea. Let's come together and let's work together because that's how we're going to get a very good return for our time. And then access to reliable farmers. I've been so grateful. I'm so grateful to KCOA. I'm grateful to PELUM, BioVision Africa Trust, and all the partners we're working with. They have wonderful organic farmers who are actually very reliable and are applying Sylvia's Basket. We are not the only ones who are benefiting, but I find that there's still a challenge for us to be able to get enough reliable farmers to increase our market. And then also we need to promote seasonal produce. Today we did a post at my shop, mangoes are finished. Now we have a lot of pawpaws, we still have pineapples we are getting for our farmers in, I think, Gatanga. And you'll find people are going to be asking for mangoes later on. Let us learn how to appreciate seasonal, let us learn how to eat seasonal. Like now we didn't have, it's so interesting. I was just telling my customers, 4 weeks ago, I was begging people, please let us eat fruit, please, because we don't have enough greens. Now the fruits are going. And now we have a lot of green leafy vegetables. The 1 month of rain has actually changed the whole, anyone who is in Kenya, it has changed. Tereres are growing like weeds. We are begging people, please eat terere. And you'll find in January, people wanted terere. It wasn't there. They were not eating as many fruits. Now they want fruits, and that's what we have is terere. So let's learn how to promote seasonal produce. Let's eat seasonal. And that will actually help the farmers be able to access their markets in a much better way if we embrace eating seasonal. And then also marketing, we have also marketing online and physical, not very easy, but possible. And I talked about logistics. I don't want to belabor the point. Opportunities. We want to be able to increase sales by making our produce affordable. We are very price sensitive. As Kenyans, it's difficult. It's not easy. Life has become so difficult for everyone. So we need to be able to make it affordable. And then being able to use social media platforms, I've already talked about that. And then the Kilimo mark, which is the PGS mark for East Africa. My brother Ndongo is going to talk about it in detail, but basically being able to market produce using Kilimo mark that actually gives you the, how do I put it? Kilimo mark is your guarantee for organic in East Africa, yes. We are able to use the opportunity of Kilimo mark. For us, we are always Kilimo. We are marketing it on our social media pages. We tell everybody about Kilimo, and our farmers have the mark also. And then being able to aggregate local farmers using PGS, KCOA is doing it very well. With our farmers that we normally buy their produce, they aggregate, put the produce together, it comes to our shop. And then daily posting on social media platforms. For us, Sylvia's Basket, check out our Instagram. I think we have more than 1,000 posts. We put in a new post every single day, new post. Check our stories, check our posts. It's possible, it's amazing, it's working. And then opportunities for cold chain and bulking. Those are high capital costs. Sometimes you find the donors are not available. Maybe they don't have the money. We don't have access to funding. But I find that if I actually had a good cold chain, can you imagine with me that I have cooler van all the way from my farm in my Mahiu, getting to the shop aggregating the produce at the shop, and my cooler van will get things to Ratemo's home at her doorstep using a proper cold chain. She's going to get the best, crisp, wonderful quality of produce. You know, for us, we're really struggling because, you know, we have to use our picky and bodas to transport. But an opportunity is for us to actually have a good cold chain, be able to bulk everything together and then sell it out. So I want to share with you the different markets that are available. So the organic and natural markets that we have around are Inogov, organic market that is on Thika Road, somewhere off Thika Road. We have the Karen Organic Farmers Market. Those who are in Karen would know it. We have become Kikuyu Organic Farmers Market, work with them very closely. We have C-Shape, Syrian Market, and they also have it in Ndeya. The opening in Ndeya, and anyway, and I think they also work with Inogov on Saturdays. Anyway, you can correct me later on. We have the Kangari Organic Farmers Market, which I shared about in Moranga, Free Organic Farmers Market, and at the US Embassy. And other organic outlets, there we are very happy at Sylvia's Basket. We have Bridges, they also sell organic produce and have a wonderful, wonderful restaurant in City Center for those who don't know them. We have the Corner Shop, they also have a section for organic. Elgania, Kafu also have a section for organic, and the produce comes from our farmers, and Kalimoni Organic Shop. So that's the end of my presentation. Feel free to get in touch on the different platforms on Facebook, Instagram, on our website, on Twitter, and on LinkedIn. Ratemo, that's all for now. I would kindly request if anybody has questions, maybe Ratemo, you can facilitate questions, and then we hand over to Ndongo at 11 to then go ahead talk about certification.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Sylvia. I just need the page so that people know how to reach you. Then a question from Elsie. Elsie is asking, what are cold chains? You mentioned about cold chains. So what are they?
Okay, basically a cold chain is being able to transport your produce all the way, you know. Let me give an example. Let me give an example to answer the question. Saying, if I have my Sukuma Wiki or whatever produce I have at my shop, it's going to be picked up by a van that has a cooler system. You see, like, let me give an example of those who are exporting flowers from Naivasha to the airport. How do you think they transport? All their vans have got a cooling system, because if this rose actually gets in contact with the sun, the Naivasha and Maimahiu hot sun, by the time it gets to the airport, it will be withered and it's not going to be of any use to the exporters. So a cold chain is being able to have a cold system whereby I have a cooler van that is able to pick up produce from the farm. The cooler van is going to come to my shop to aggregate, basically means to put all the produce together. And at my shop, I also have a cooling section, yeah, that keeps all the vegetables cool. So I'm able to actually get produce from the shop, and then I put it in a crate, and from the crate back to the cooler van, and then it's going to be delivered to Ratemo, say for example, my customer. So basically, a cold chain is being able to keep this produce in a cool environment. I don't know what the specifications might be, maybe about 10 degrees or so. So it's going to be 10 degrees all the way from when it's picked up from the farm to when it arrives at the client's home, and it's going to be in good quality. I don't know if I've answered it well, but that's a cold chain system.
Thank you, Sylvia. We have another question on Facebook from Lucy. Just an input. She has an input. Production is also a challenge since most of the farmers produce less products, hence makes markets not enough for consumers, and build in the markets that makes more competition between conventional and organic products. I think it's about sustainability of markets in terms of production. So there's a question from Beatrice Wayaki. How do you detect organic produce from your farmers before doing delivery? And the question number 2, what happens to that farmer? Maybe in case they are not organic. I think that's what she means. Maybe
Yeah,
an
for us,
response, and then I ask
yeah.
more questions.
Okay, sure. For us, basically, we work with institutions. I would not be able to do it myself. So I work with, like as I mentioned, work with KCOA, work with PELUM, work with By Vision Africa Trust, whose farmers have already gone through a system known as Participatory Guarantee System, which is a group certification whereby the farmers have undergone a proper training on how to grow organic produce. They have their checks and balances, and then they're able to aggregate the produce. So I don't do it on my own. I work with these different organizations, and I would kindly request that Mr. Ndongo, as he does his presentation, please emphasize on PGS and how it supports, with the credibility and being able to ensure that all farmers are growing their produce organically. I think I've answered that part of the question.
Thank you, Sylvia. One of the participants is requesting for you to just go back one slide. I think he wants to capture something. Just leave it there. So there's a question from Jerry. Of late, there has been worry of environmental contamination by a human and animal antibiotics. Don't you think also organic produce are culprits? What is the solution from organic players? Wow, interesting question. You don't have to respond alone. We also have other master trainers here. We have Grace Bisoy, we have Mr. Derito, we have Esther. So let me throw this to Derito. So of late, there is a worry about environmental contamination by a human and animal antibiotics. Don't you think also organic produce are culprits? What is the solution from organic players? Mr. Derito, if you are online, please attempt that question. On Grace, any of you? About contamination of organic produce, if I'm not wrong, if we are contributing to that.
Just to give
okay, someone, yeah. Okay, go ahead. I didn't know you were
just to give a small, maybe a small solution. But I think the best thing to do is for farmers to practice organic farming, because the antibiotics are all over, and the multinationals or the business is booming because people are just injecting their chicken with the antibiotics and because they want profits. And so we are eating food that we don't know. So the solution is for individuals to eat what they know or eat what they produce. I think because of people running for profits and the cost of production has gone very high, so they just want to do anything so that they gain profits. But for us to really eat organics, it's for us to produce what we are growing. So we eat what we know. I think that can be a solution as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you, Sam. Let me just add one more thing. In terms of the contamination of produce on the garden, one of the things that Mr. Anderito and even Grace normally train on so well is how to do composting and how to manage animal manure so that you're able to manage it in a way that is healthy and is not going to contaminate your vegetables. Because I know that's normally a very heavy thing that people would be able to use, like slurry, like raw manure on things like lettuce or food that is eaten raw, that is then going to contaminate and make people really sick. So one of the things that through this program, we're able to actually teach people on how to make compost and how to manage the animal manure to reduce on any problems that could arise from contamination of vegetables in the garden.
Can I give an input, Ratemo?
Yes.
Thank you, Sylvia, for a good presentation. Actually, I want us also to focus also on ways of contamination, because a farmer can produce organic foods, but the handling part, the transportation from the farm to the table, contamination could happen either way. So it is also important to consider the entire food chain from the farm to the table. So I think apart from contamination at farm level, also contamination happens along the value chain. And also at farm level, most farmers, you would find them using the same, for example, a knapsack sprayer. The same one they use for their livestock in controlling caricides is the same one they use to control, to spray their crops. And at times contamination happens also at that point. So it is important for our farmers to consider how they handle their foods at the shop, and the traders to consider how they handle the food from the farm to the table. Thank you.
Thank you. We have more questions from our participants. So Maureen Minor is asking, maybe this one I throw to Esther. Are you online so that I read the question?
Yes, I'm here, Ratemo.
Okay, the question, how do you advise your farmers to control their crops from being pollinated by inorganic crops from their neighbors who are not practicing organic?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I will start by saying that an organic farmer will ensure that the farm is well protected from pollination, maybe by use of bavason or live fence. If you find like you don't have both, maybe you can try to plant some napier grass around your fence, around your farm, or things like sunflower, things that will grow very fast. Or you can just even plant some maize, but there are some maize, and then those maize may not be the main crop that you're going to eat as organic, because that will just be pollinated. I don't know whether I have answered that question. Again, there is apart from pollination, there is drift of chemicals from maybe upper side. If your farm is lowest on the downside of the hill, then you'll have to cut a drain so that water from upside lands will not get into your farm. Again, try as much as possible. If you don't have that, you don't have the drain, maybe a big drain to drain water away. Try as much as possible to put some either cover crop, crops like napier grass that will really prevent that water from bringing some water from coming in your farm. Try as much as possible not to have water coming from upside your farm. Yeah.
Thank you, Esther.
Can I add
So we have,
something?
oh, you want to add? Yes, Nerito?
Yeah. For farmers to avoid cross-pollination of their crops or plants, 3 or 4 things can be done. One, farmers can practice what we call time isolation. So they isolate planting of their crops in terms of time, so that they can plant their crops either earlier or later from their neighbors. So that is one. Number 2, space isolation. Space isolation is where you practice distancing or distance isolation, where if it is maize and you don't want the indigenous to cross-pollinate with the neighbors, maybe it's a hybrid, maize normally is isolated at a distance of 600 meters apart. So with that, pollen will not reach your maize. So that is space isolation. You can also practice caging. That is why you cage. Maybe like vegetables or horticultural crops can be caged so that bees don't come from outside, come and pollinate your crops. And then last one, you can plant one crop at a time, planting one crop at a time, so that you're not planting different varieties of maize at the same time, and that will facilitate cross-pollination. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to welcome questions from our participants who are on Zoom. If you have a question, just raise your hand. We'll have 5 minutes for questions and answers. Do you have any question for our presenter? If not, continue posting on Facebook. I'm going to read out the questions. Sylvia, I have a question. You've mentioned,
Please go ahead.
Yes, you've mentioned about, calendar planting. So
Yeah.
in that calendar planting, someone also has to consider seasons, yeah?
Yes,
If I'm not
yes.
wrong. And also sustainability of markets.
Sure.
In terms of supplying. So does it mean you have to have a sort of a record? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, you actually.
You need to explain more about that so that our listeners know that you also need to put effort in record keeping, tracking your production, your supply, who is buying what. Maybe I mention a list.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. I didn't mention record keeping, Ratemo, but that's a very, very, very important aspect. And I think for me, I actually have seen that for this calendar, like the planting program or using a calendar for your planting program to work, for me, I've seen it working very efficiently in farmer groups. And the reason why I say that is because very few of us have got sufficient land and resources and capital to grow the needs of the market. So I find that if you work with a group of farmers, if you're in a organized farmer group, we, Dongo and myself actually can do training for the calendar planting, the planting program. We're able to do it. And we basically would be able to make sure that we do, what do you call it? Like we need to map, like we know the farmers that we have, we know the resources that are available to them. We know the crops that do well in a particular season. And then from there, then, that is all record keeping as you're talking about. From there, now we are able to tell which farmer, to tell each farmer what they're supposed to grow at what time, knowing when it's going to be harvested. And at the same time, when you know when it's going to be harvested, you've already liaised with the market to tell them that in 2, 3, 4 weeks' time, this is the kind of seasonal produce that you expect to get. So the person at the market then starts marketing it. It sounds like a very complex thing, but then now I agree with you in terms of record keeping, it won't work. But even for a farmer on their own individual farms, they are able to divide their farm into different plots and then know how to plant progressively to make sure that they always have produce enough for the market. It's a very, very, very broad topic. I may not be able to answer the question right now, but I agree with you that having a calendar, having a record keeping is very important for the planting calendar to work.
Thank you. I'm seeing there are no more questions. Maybe they are anticipating for Nogo's presentation about certification. But thank you, Sylvia. I don't know if you want to share maybe some parting shots before we hand over to Mr. Ndongo.
Yeah, my parting shot would basically be what I said earlier. Nairobi has a population of 7 million. Kenya has over 50. So even if you're listening to me from out of Kenya, we have our friends in Uganda who are listening to us. The markets are wide, they are broad. We just need to coordinate ourselves. We need to work with our farmers. We need to be brave and go out and start organic markets. It's very difficult, but it's possible. And our citizens are counting on us as farmers to actually go out there and make sure that this good organic produce is accessible as many Africans as possible. Thank you so much for the time, Ratemo. I really enjoyed it, being able to share our story. And yeah, I look forward to hearing from our brother now on certification. Asante.
Thank you, Sylvia. Maybe and stop projecting so that Mr. Nogo can start. For our listeners, we are in the second section on certification. So I welcome our presenter. He's going to introduce himself again because we have new listeners, and then he will take us through his training. Thank you. Yes, Ndongo, it's now to you, and start when you're ready.
You can be able to see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so my name is Samuel Dongo, organic agriculture certification for operators, and also done capacity building on this area of organic certification and standards, and also facilitating participatory guarantee systems for many groups. So I would like us to discuss about the organic guarantee systems, because this is the only way we can be able to interface with consumers and confirm and also give them a confirmation and a guarantee that the produce that we are providing to them is actually grown in or using the organic methods. And this is a Kilimo Hai mark you can see at the end, which is communicating that the product actually is organic certified. And this is the mark that consumers should look for when they are going to get produce from the market, so that they can be sure that it is an organic produce. And this is a regional mark, also being used in the 5 East African countries, and registered as a trademark, so that it's not misused. So just to start, I don't know why my screen is not moving. Yes. So why certification normally comes in is because, one is a certification is a form of conforming, or a method by which we confirm that products are being produced using some standards. This is a general definition, because certification runs across even in conventional products, because you have different types of certifications. And why particular certifications have been very important in the recent years is because there has been concerns around the food safety of products. I had earlier somebody asking about contamination of food. It has been becoming a common experience that people are going to the market eating contaminated food, either because of cleanliness and sanitary issues, phytosanitary, and even contamination like antibiotics and also bacteria. Also, there has been an issue about environmental impact of the farming systems that we have in terms of polluting the environment, degrading our land, we are losing biodiversity, and also the issue of animal welfare. Also in the area of social impact, how our agriculture systems are impacting socially to our communities. Are we making our communities better when we are trading with them? When they are producing food to feed into the supply chains. And are they, for example, the workers who are working on the farms, are they being treated fairly? Or they are living in conditions that are inhumane? Or are we using child labor for children to work on our farms? The other area is climate change, because as we know that the globe has been warming up, because mostly of the industrial revolution that is happening in many industries, but also global warming is being caused by agricultural practices that we are doing. So also that is also coming into place, and that's why we get different certification programs being developed so that we can try to manage these different concerns that consumers have. So we need certification because if, for example, you are producing food and consuming it, you may not need certification because you are producing it and you can guarantee to yourself. If you are producing and selling to your neighbor, person who is very close to you, you may not need certification because your neighbor can start in and guarantee and check what you're producing and how you're producing. And he can be sure that you're producing using the methods that he or she is comfortable with. But in our global environment where we have consumers want healthy food, environmental, products grown in an environment where we are not degrading the soils and the air, they are willing to pay a bit higher price for this, but they are very far from where we are farming. Then we need to have a way of certifying these products. Because as a farmer, you may be using growing your crops using defined organic standards. But how do you communicate to the consumer and ensure that you are following those standards? So you need a guarantee system. You need certification to be done. So that even if you sell at a higher price, then it makes sense. And you and the consumer can be able to be on the same page. So generally, that's why we need certification to come in. And organic guarantee system, has been there for some years. And we have many countries developing organic guarantee systems. And some guarantee systems are developed through private schemes. For example, we have like 84 countries with organic regulations. I would like to talk about the difference between organic regulations and organic standards, because there's a difference. Organic regulations are normally enacted by governments through their registration systems. We call them parliaments, and therefore they are legally binding. And if you are to produce in those countries or to sell to those countries, then you have to abide by those regulations. Of course, we also have countries which are in the process of developing their own organic regulations. And this is mostly in developed countries. In developing countries, only a few countries which have developed organic regulations. You also have private standards, and these are developed by private companies. So they are not government regulations, and therefore they are not mandatory. Normally people comply to these private standards because the owners of these standards have marketed them to consumers, and therefore consumers demand that producers get certified to these standards. A very good example is global gap standards, because it's not a regulation, but it's a sort of a private startup. But you see, if you are to sell your product, your fresh products from Kenya, for example, you have to comply to global gap standards. We have certification bodies, and these bodies are normally accredited by governments which have organic regulations to undertake certifications in those countries and also in overseas for people who are exporting to those countries. But also we do have certification companies which operate, for example, in countries where we don't have regulations in place. And when you look at the number of countries and distribution, of course, you see regulations that is in orange. In Africa, we don't have a lot of them, although we have national standards, but we don't have regulations because normally the government have like bodies which are custodians of standards, and the standards are developed, but they have not been enforced. So they are there, they can be used, but not enforced. But most of the regulations that we have are in Europe, most countries in Europe and also in America. And just a brief about evolution of standards, because it can be traced back to 1967 by Soil Association of UK. They were the first organized group to develop organic standards. And when they were doing it, it was just a small document, a short document. which was talking about mostly organic production and processing. And this standard has actually evolved over the years. And now we have a very elaborate soil association standard. I think by 2010, it was like 500 pages. And this shows you how standards have been coming to along, have been complicated over the years. It started very simply, but over the years has been complicated. And where we are moving to now, of course, we have new EU regulation, and the US, they are also updating their regulation. Other countries like China, they are also coming up with their own organic regulation. It's being made more and more complicated and actually difficult to comply to. So the standards, as I said, has been tightened over the years. Of course, there has been development, there has been growth in terms of consistency of application, but this has really removed the touch that producers have with the soil, with the consumer. It has increased bureaucracy and also led to disempowerment of the organic movement, because organic standard development started from the organic movement, where farmers came together in cooperatives, in groups, to develop some norms which they can be using to farm. And they were normally based on their socio and cultural setups. But now we have moved from there to government regulations, which are very elaborate, bureaucratic, and also very difficult to comply to. So you can see how organic standards have evolved over the years. And you can ask yourself, so why do we have these different standards in different countries? Can we just have one global organic standard? Because organic definition is the same. IFOAM, which is the International Federation of Organic Agriculture Movements, have come up with a common definition of what organic is, organic product is. So can we have just one organic standard? But you realize that there are differences in countries in terms of culture, agriculture practices, economy, values, because countries give different values to different concepts. Like, for example, there are countries who are very particular with animal welfare. Others are very particular with biodiversity. Others with buffer zones, food safety. And this normally makes countries not comfortable with their just one standard, because they would like what their emphasis is and their focus is also to be integrated in their own standard. Also, in terms of legal background, because there are countries, for example, they don't like or they don't encourage banning of crop residues. For example, differences in conversion periods. Although, if you look at the different standards, the major standards, there has been like a common understanding about what should be a conversion period and how long a conversion period should be. There is also a feeling that sometimes countries develop their own organic standards to protect their markets, as a form of market protection. Because all these different food standards, they are a form of non-tariff barriers. They bring barrier to trade between countries. So, this can also be looked at from that perspective. You can also ask yourself, is it because of ego? There are countries which feel that their standards should be superior, and for persons who want to market their products in those countries, therefore they have to comply to those standards. So it has been there over time, continue and it continues. But of course, we also have the minimums, following the definition of what organic is, and this has been agreed upon. And if you look at all the standards, they are like the principles which are like the bare minimum of what organic is, and that's what you find in most of the standards. There are some issues which are currently not very certain in the organic standards. They have not been agreed upon. There has been discussions which are continuing on these issues. For example, the use of container farming and hydroponics, aquaponics. Currently, most of the standards don't allow the use of hydro and aquaponics. There are some that allow container gardening or container farming. There are a few which don't allow that, but this discussion has been continuing. Non-food products like textile, of course, there are standards which have not, accepted this, but there are some which have developed these textile standards. Cosmetics, of course, that has also been an issue. We have organic, for example, lotions and sprays. Aquaculture, many standards are developing aquaculture standards. There are some which have not developed. The issue of seeds, according to the phytosanitary standards of many countries, the use of non-treated seeds is prohibited because of the movement of pests across countries. And therefore, this is an area also which has been a contentious one. The use of genetically modified seeds. For example, many standards say that when you are, as a farmer, you are growing GE or genetically engineered crops, then you should not be certified as an organic farmer, even if you have an organic garden, which is within your farm. So this is an area also which are becoming more and more important, because the genetically engineered foods are really penetrating in our countries. The use of nanotechnology, especially for disinfecting, because of the emergence of different pathogens which are coming into being, and that this nanotechnology is one of the technologies which can really solve this problem. So this is an area also which is under discussion, and whether nanotechnology is actually affecting the quality of food that is being produced. So I want to talk about certification, and it's important that we talk about the first form of guarantee system, which is direct or first party assurance, where as a farmer, you can actually guarantee yourself. I think we see many farmers, especially who are participating in farmers markets, they are not in participatory guarantee system, they are not certified through the third party system, but they claim, it's called self-claim, they claim that they are producing their food through organic means. And if you can trust that farmer, for example, you can pay a visit to that farm, and then you are satisfied that that farmer is actually producing using organic technologies, you can actually be buying that produce as organic produce. So that is what we call the first party assurance or direct guarantee, where the farmer is saying I'm organic, and then maybe the consumer can maybe go and visit the farmer, and there's no certification there involved in terms of that party or PTS. The other certification is called third party. So in that party, where we have first party as the farmer or a group of farmers who are growing organic produce, they have their own organic regulations, internal organic regulations they have developed, which are of course in line with the known or accepted organic standards. And then they are selling to a second party who is a consumer who is far from the market or where they are producing. And they are involving a third party, which is a certification body, who is coming to check what the first party, how the first party is producing, how the handling is being done, the transportation is being done, and then he's giving feedback and then it gives a guarantee that actually the producer is following the organic standards, and therefore the consumer can buy those produce as organic produce. Yeah, as I said, there has to be organic standards, and the certificate has to be there. There has to be visits and reports provided, so that we can say that the produce being produced is actually organic produce. Also, let's talk about who policies the policeman. So who checks the certification bodies? So the certification bodies are normally checked by accreditation systems. For example, the EU, they have their own accreditation system, which checks and policies the certification companies, which normally gives organic certificates. And we also have the International Standard Organization 17065 accreditation program, which also does accreditation for certification companies. We also have IFOAM, also has their own accreditation system, which checks the certification companies. So over the years, as you can see, there has been changes of the standards, who decides on the procedures and who makes certification decisions. Because normally standards are different from the company certified. Although you can have some certification companies developing their own standards, there is a difference. For example, in the early years of 1940s to 1970s, we had standards being developed by farmers. As I said, it came from the organic movement. By that time, there were no procedures of who decides who is to be certified. And certification decisions were not applicable because farmers were the ones who are developing the standards and checking themselves. Actually, is when you look at PGS, actually we are going back to this era where farmers were very powerful and they were taking charge of the certification or guaranteeing organic products. But from 1970 to 1990s, that's when organic standards were taken over by some governments. Organic associations started to be formed. So standards were being developed collectively by farmer associations, kept coming together. Procedures for certification were decided by cooperatives, by farmers coming together, and they also used to make certification decisions. But in the 1990s, from 1990s, even up to now, you see a lot of emergence of certification bodies or certification companies. And although standards are being developed by farmers collectively, the procedures for certification are decided by certification companies. And for who made by certification. And in the last 20 years also, we have seen emergence of governments where governments are developing standards. They are also deciding on procedures and they are leaving the certification decisions for the certification bodies. So, and you can see the emergence of certification and concept and standards, came from how organic emerged in the early years, from ideology, like Rudolf Steiner, he came and applying it on crops, use of Demeter or Demeter applications. Also soil association, emergence of IFOAM or development of IFOAM, and over the years there has been development of for example, France developed their own organic registration in the 1985, in 1980s. The US developed their own Organic Foods Production Act in the 1990s. The first EU regulation developed in 1991. And as you can see, there has been a gradual development of organic standards over the years. When you look at organic standards and major organic standards, what we say that the organic standards are template for quality, because when we talk about organic products and certified organic products, we are defining a certain quality of the product. So it's not a normal product, but a certified organic product. And organic also, the standards integrates traceability system, because a farmer, a consumer who is buying produce from the market, organic produce from the market, there has to be a way of tracing these products to where it came from or which producer produced those products. And even the certification itself, the procedures integrates the issue of traceability system. Because for you to be certified also, you have to show that your products can be traced back to where it came from the seeds all the way to the finished product. Also, organic certification helps to verify production and management system independently. So it's a way of, confirming how production system and management system is being done. And it helps also monitoring organic products from soil to seed or finished products. Of course, organic in products in many markets attracts premium. Premium varies depending on which products. There are some products which fetches high premium because maybe they are high risk crops. Maybe the demand is high. Markets, but their product, the consumers are not ready to pay for high premiums. But what I say is that an organic product, you can actually to get normally. So by being certifying your products, you're actually increasing your position in the market and making yourself more competitive. These examples of organic standards, organic standards, which was developed in 2007. It has been updated in 2017. The current standard that we have. The EU regulation, now we have a new EU regulation 848, 2018, but the 834 is still being in place or implemented. We have the National Organic Program standards for US, Japanese agricultural standards for Japan. We also have private standards like Naturad, CRAF, which is a Sweden standard certification program. Certification is also a private standard, and we have many more standards and certification programs. And these are examples of organic marks that we have. For USDA, they use that mark. The EU regulation, they use the REEF, like RIMAI mark and shown area. The bio standards for Naturad and CRAF and Soil Association. The objective of the standards, most standards they establish long-term ecological based. This is that when a farmer starts organic production, he should actually invest for the future. So how he builds his soil fertility, how he's, for example, integrating biodiversity should not be look at that. Also should be based on long-term goals or strategy. The standards also avoid and minimize synthetic inputs. Why we talk about minimizing is because there are some operations, there are some processes that you have to use synthetic inputs, and that is defined by the standards because the natural inputs are not available currently. The other objective is to minimize pollution and degradation during production, during processing has to be minimized. And this is very clear in the standards and is actually checked by the standards. Also excluding unproven and natural and harmful technologies like genetic engineering. Also that is the aim and objective of the avoiding pollution, and especially for standards relating to livestock, promoting natural health of animals, and maintaining organic integrity of the supply chain, and providing organic integrity in the supply chain. So these are objectives of the standards when you check in general all the standards, and that's what the standards aim to achieve. When you look at the structure of the standards, it has general requirements, for example, for organic production, and then it has specifics for crop production, animal husbandry, beekeeping, and wild correction. So from the general requirements, which covers every system, to specifics for the different systems of production. And then there is a section for handling, storage, and processing requirements, which specifies how you should handle your product, how storage should be done, and how processing should be done. And also requirements for labeling. This all the standards, how and then it has annexes which specifies the inputs in terms of for pest management, for disease management, for food processing, for additives, and things like that. It's nobody in the annexes. And there states that there has to be adequate physical separation between organic and inorganic production. This means that when, for example, you're looking at organic production, a farm, there has to be a difference between a farmer who is doing organic and the farmer who is neighboring, who is a conventional farmer. And this, as Esther was talking about, there has to be a buffer zone. A buffer zone should be a physical separation, either in terms of a fence or in terms of a space that has been left, which will prevent the drift for the pesticides which are being sprayed by neighbors to come to the organic farm. The other requirement is the standards, the records that producers have to keep records, which demonstrate that they are complying with the standards. And these records, because they should be clear, they should be understandable, they should be able to, somebody should be able to follow them up. Although a farmer can actually keep the records in his own native language, but it should be in a way that somebody can be able to follow them. There is also a requirement for conversion period before full organic status. This depends whether a crop is a perennial crops or is an annual crop. Normally for perennial crops is 3 years, and for annual crops is 2 years. There is also a requirement for inspection of the unit at least once per year, where the auditor is, comes and checks the farms, the stores, and all the operations before certification is done. Certification, we normally say that it follows the process certification because for a product to be certified, you have to check from where the seed came from, how that was prepared, how pest processing was done, if it was done, storage, transportation, and labeling. So certification is not for the final product, but for all the steps that has been followed for a product to move from the conception to finalization of that product. Let me talk briefly about internal control system, because if you are doing certification for a group of farmers, currently in the new EU regulation, they call it a group of operators. If you are doing certification for a group of operators or a group of farmers, then you need to establish the internal control system. And the internal control system, we say, is a documented quality management system, which allows a certification company to delegate the annual inspection to a unit within the group that ensures that all the members within that group are complying with organic regulations. So instead of the certification companies doing all the farmers certification or inspections, then they do the sampling. And then the unit which is within the group of operators or within the operator. Operator here means a company or the person who is in charge of the ICS. They ensure that all the farmers are complying with the standards, and then the certification body comes to sample and confirm that the sample is complying with the standards, and therefore the they of course assume that if that sample is complying, then every member within the internal control system is also complying to the standards. So the group has to have a formal internal control system, meaning that it has to be documented. There has to be an internal control system manual, which is showing or documenting all the procedures, the documentation, the systems within the group. Of course, it is required that the certificate is issued as one certificate, because each member of the internal control system has a responsibility of ensuring that the neighbor is also not, flouting the internal regulations, because by checking each other, then they ensure that everybody within the group is complying to the organic standards. And this is how it works. So we have the external inspector, which is coming to check. Of course, we have the producer who is producing. He is maybe processing and doing storage at the farm level. But also we have an exporter who is exporting. So the certifier, instead of checking every farmer, as you can see the arrows here, the bold arrow shows that he puts a lot of emphasis in checking the internal control system, the procedures, the documentation, the systems of the internal control, how it's working. And then he samples some farmers. And once he's satisfied that the internal control system is working, then he is able to issue the certificate. But why the internal control systems comes in is because of the costs, mostly. Because certification cost is quite prohibiting. And if farmers are to be certified individually, then it will be very costly. But if they're in a group, then they can be able to get certification and share the certification costs. Possible structures of internal control system, you can have where we have farmers coming together as a cooperative. They manage their ICS. So they have field officers who are also doing internal inspections. And the cooperative can contract a processor to process for them their products. Or sometimes they can even sell their produce to a processor who also does exports. B is where we have a company or a processor or an NGO holding the certificate. The company is the one who organizes and actually finances the internal control system. He also provides, storage, processing, transport. And he also organizes the farmers and he contracts the farmers. So we call it option B. It's also possible for that to happen. As I said, the advantage of internal control system is that it reduces costs. It helps in aggregation because when you have many farmers, they can come together and each one of them has small volumes. They can bring their volumes together and therefore they can be able to market together. It also helps to build market access because a buyer, for example, a person who is interested to export products, he wants big volumes. And therefore, one farmer as an individual may not be able to sell his produce, but when they come together, they can be able to sell. And also it can encourage development partners to come and assist farmers when they are organized. And also farmers can, come up with the innovations. It can be a way of, incubate ideas. For example, come together. And as advantages, for example, over the years, it has really been focusing on commodity crops like coffee or tea and things like that. It has been used for export. So, this makes it very limiting. And the aspect that farmers cannot own a certificate also complicates issues because farmers rely on the owner of the certificate. And if he's not happy, for example, with the prices, he cannot sell outside the group as organic because he's only organic when he's within the group. And certification normally is done using foreign standards. So also meaning that, it's not homegrown. Yeah. So those are some of the disadvantages of ICS. And for ICS to work, of course, there has to be producers, there has to be staff who are training farmers, they are keeping documentation, they are also organizing for buying and storage for produce. And there is also a set of documentation which has to be set and kept for ICS to function properly. So training is very important in internal control system because farmers have to know the standards. There has to be regulations. Normally they are developed, of course, in line with the external standards, but they are developed in a simple way that farmers can be able to understand them and they can be able to actually interpret and practice them. For smallholder farmers to be certified as a group, form an ICS, of course, the issue of costs come into being because cost of individual certification is high, but there has to be homogeneity of members. For example, farmers have to be in the same location. They have to be having the same production system, it's sort of similar size of holding. And then if we can have big farmers or large farms, they can be part of the internal control system. They can be part of group certification, but they have to be inspected individually. And farmers have to sell, using the same marketing system or having a common marketing system. The organic certification process, of course, it starts with risk assessment. We say actually certification is based on risk assessment, looking at the different risks which can jeopardize the integrity of the organic product. That's a very important exercise. And then awareness building, of course, is important to bring in awareness about the standards, about certification. And then from there, we have registration of farmers. So all the farmers within the internal control system have to be registered. They have to be contracted. And then their histories have to be taken. From there, developing internal control system documents, like internal procedures, the systems that we have and documentations. Then, of course, external inspection is done, communication of the external inspection results, and issuance of the certificate. And what is very important also is doing continuous capacity building. Like every year, the field officers have to be trained and the farmers have to be trained. Because if you don't do that, then they forget. They have to be reminded. What does the internal standards say, the internal regulations? In case there are changes with the external standards, then that has to be communicated through trainings. So during the inspection by the certification body, what is checked is how the ICS is functioning, competence of the staff, they have the right skills, knowledge of implementing the internal control system. Also farmers, do they have understanding of the standards and how they are implementing the standards, how handling of the standard is done, and sometimes the sampling of products is done. In the new EU regulation, it will be mandatory from 2024 that sampling will be done, but currently is not mandatory. So it's actually based on the risks in the ICS. So what we need in group certification, we need to have good farmers who are ready to be organic farmers, who are following the standards, be in a group in the same area, of course, have extension officers working with you. Of course, there are resources for example, logistics for reaching farmers, have a joint or central marketing system where you can even work with a buyer, and then you can get in touch with the certifier to certify you. You need an internal standards, which is simple, understandable by the farmers in the language of the farmer so that they can be able to understand it. Also, you need to have a clear membership rules who can join as a member, who from the group. Of course, you need to have a list of your members, registration documents. You need to have a commitment like in a contract, and then agree on who should pay for certification. And this is a process flow of how certification is done, from showing interest as a farmer, as a company, as a producer. And you set an application form, then the application form is considered, as an auditor is assigned, or inspector. Inspection is done, it's an inspection report produced, and then the report is approved, and certification decision is provided. If there are issues that are coming out or non-compliances, then there are conditions which are provided before certification is done. But if there are no issues, then a certificate is issued. And this is an annual cycle. So inspections are done every year. So that's about that party certification. I want to take the next few minutes to talk about participatory guarantee system. This is another way of guarantee system, which is actually focused on farmers, active participation of stakeholders, built on the foundation of trusts in social networks, and also knowledge exchange. And the beauty of PGS is that they are context related, they are unique, they're integrated with the local market, and therefore they are actually very in line or empowering farmers. And it also brings in the idea of agroecology, whole farm-based certification, involving peer reviews, fellow farmers in guaranteeing and certification as a group. And also the issue of Kilimo Hai, also comes in here, because also integrating committee structures within the groups, so that many farmers, as many farmers as possible, can be involved in the group's activities. There has been desire for change because people have been feeling that the third-party certification system has been taken up by big businesses, has been bureaucratic, and not really, meeting the needs of local markets. And therefore, there has been need for a simple guarantee system which can be used in the context of local markets, which is not expensive like the third-party certification system. So these issues are the ones which have really been making people to look for alternative guarantee system, and the participatory guarantee system has been coming in to, for this, to fill these gaps. Also, the issue of equity and fairness, feeling that, farmers are not, earning more or earning enough, or they are being disadvantaged within the value chain. So there has been no equity. And this also has been making people to think about PGS. So PGS is coming in for 3 reasons: empowerment, empowering farmers, ensuring stakeholders are participating, ensuring that knowledge and capacity building is being done for producers and consumers. Knowledge is being shared among the stakeholders. Consumers are informed, or they have more information about where they are buying, why they should buy organic produce, and also building a strong relationship with the consumers. Because most PGS work very well in short supply chains, like what Sylvia had talked about. So the main aim or goal of PGS is improvement of livelihoods, but also we have innovation of the food systems. Because consumers in both rural and urban setups can really benefit when they can have a close contact with farmers who are giving or providing them with access of foods which is organic, local, and affordable. And this is some of the additional benefits we have in PGS. And how PGS works, of course, we have the name PGS. P is more participatory. So how farmers should be participating in this, interacting, but also participation of other actors. And actually, PGS looks at how the actors within the value chain can be volunteering their time to also ensure that the guarantee system is working well. So there is a lot of volunteering in PGS. And that's why what makes PGS to be cheaper. The guarantee is that ensuring that farmers are doing the right thing. By PGS, it doesn't mean that the product is not or is less organic. It actually should be organic, being produced using the organic regulation, organic standards. So the farmers should also maintain the standards so that we can actually say this is an organic product. When you look at the system, we are talking about the whole chain of actors, because that is the system. Producers, traders, consumers working together. But also we talk about the organic farming as a system. Yeah. And the system, of course, should be both within and without, because we have the system that is being created by farmers and the other stakeholders, and where also consumers should be participating. Yeah. But of course, the system provided by standards, which is an outside system. And PGS have common features. For example, there has to be recognized production standards, which the farmers in a PGS are complying to. Farmers in a PGS have to come up or develop rules or norms, which they have to agree upon and involving other stakeholders. PGS have to be developed from grassroots. It has to be appropriate for smallholder farmers. It has to be based on principles and values that respect or reflect culture. So building a lot from the culture and the social norms. There has to be documented management systems and procedures within PGS. Transparency. Yes. So farmers have to have a way of peer reviewing or checking each other. Yeah. So there has to be training which is being done for the farmers. Farmers have to take a pledge, and this is it's not a contract deal, but where farmers they commit to be following the internal regulations. PGS also have labels. They develop their own seals, and there has to be some consequences if some members of PGS are not following the internal rules. And there's a comparison between ICS and PGS. For example, ICS is mostly focused for export markets, but PGS is for local markets. ICS is mostly focusing on long chains and export market, but PGS is focusing on short chains and whole farm conversion. PGS ICS provides, but your certificates for members. In ICS, if one member is not complying with the standards, then the whole group is jeopardized. But in PGS, if one farmer is not following the standards, one farmer is removed and the PGS continues. The standards for PGS, they are adapted to local situations, but for ICS is mostly based on external standards and third-party certification. The inspection in PGS is based on peer review, where farmers in a group go and visit each other. But for ICS, it's based on certification by a certification company. And PGS, they can develop their own seal or their own mark. But for ICS, they have to use the certification company seal or the seal which is defined by the regulation which they are following. So this is how it works. As you know, we have consumers who are working together with farmers on this side, and farmers have their own standards, they have their own procedures, they approve the members, they maintain the documentation, they have a logo, but they are also relating with other stakeholders. And they normally go and check each other using the annual farm visits or assessments. But also there is what we call the social control, because they also check each other when they are doing their trainings, when they are doing their field days. And we can also have stakeholders like NGOs, extension staff, even governments participating in PGS. So PGS have elements, 4 elements, shared vision, stakeholders, there has to be participation, there has to be transparency, and trust. And also PGS is a running process, and you also have horizontality. So the vision is for all the stakeholders, from farmers to NGOs, to other industry players and consumers. Participatory is where we have all the members within the PGS and stakeholders participating in the guarantee system to ensure that actually the guarantee system is working. And as I said, it's based on more on voluntary participation. And trust is where we have an open policy for PGS. We normally assume that farmers, when they decide they want to be organic farmers, actually they do that with their heart, so they and their concerns. So therefore they can be committed to growing organic food and protecting nature. So PGS assumes that farmers can actually be trusted to follow the rules and the standards. Transparency comes because there has to be openness and transparency, public access of documentation, and farmers should be sharing information about their PGS in meetings, in workshops. When they are doing peer review, each producer have to be ready to show what he's doing on the farm, and the involvement of all the members in decision making. Horizontality is where we have rotating responsibility. So each farmer has to be engaged, or it's required to be engaged in, for example, in doing peer reviews, in different committees, so that he feels that he's involved in the guarantee system, and also ensuring that, for example, in leadership, there is a rotation. We don't have just one farmer being the chairman or the committee all the time, but each member has a chance to be involved in decision making. And PGS normally gives high priority to running process, sharing of information, bringing interaction. For example, farmers, coming up with, for example, a field day for exchange learning, where they visit each other and they learn from each other, so that they can share their experiences. So that is the end of my presentation. I would like to welcome some questions, and we can have some discussions, maybe for a few minutes. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have all learned a lot about certification. There are so many questions on Facebook, so I want to go straight ahead and ask. So we have a question from Elfans, more of a comment. Certification of both farmers and cooperatives is envisioned to open up mass market opportunities. The only hindrance is the process and charges. Maybe you can just comment on that. That's from Elfans.
Yeah, and that's a good question, because certification normally it takes time. And normally, when you are doing certification for exports, I give myself a minimum of 3 months to get the certification process, done. It can take a long time if there are many issues coming into being. Third-party certification is expensive because these companies are private companies, they are profit companies, they are for-profit companies. So their aim is to make money. The other thing that I say is that because there are many certification companies, if you want to get certified, you can actually ask several companies for a quotation, and then you can go for the cheapest option. So I agree with him. It's expensive, bureaucratic, but for market access, is quite important.
Thank you. There's another question about certification from LFAS. So does certified organic livestock production system exist in Kenya? And then there's a question for Sylvia, but I want to task Esther to answer. Where do you source certified livestock products for your shop? Since Esther, you also have an organic market, you can also attempt that question. Yes. So maybe Dongo, you can respond first and then Esther.
Yes, you know, I would like to tell him that yes, we do have certified livestock. There are some companies which have certified milk and certified yogurt, and certified eggs, and certified chicken. But there are only few persons who are certified for livestock. It's a growing area. There is a lot of demand, and therefore it shows there is a big opportunity for producers to be certified, you know, as livestock, organic livestock producers.
Esther, are you online?
Yes, I'm here. As Dongo says, we have very few people who are certified on animal rearing, and we have few things that are certified as animal products. It has been hard to get those things into the shop. But for us, you know, we work with the farmers, and we are able to possibly identify the farmers who are not really using a lot of chemical, I mean, like feeds. They are free rangers. If it is for eggs, they don't use a lot of concentrate. So we are able to identify those farmers who are somehow keen on rearing their animals organically. So for now, we can't say that we have complete organic organic products in our shop, but for the few that we have, like poultry, we can say they're organic, but not 100%. Yeah, because sometimes you find the chicken is sick, the animal is having some diseases also, and sometimes there was no, like the season that we are coming from, there was no much feeds like grass, some hay. So the farmer ends up to the shop to buy some feeds, animal feeds. So at one point, you might not say that they are completely like 100% organic, but at least 80% they have tried. Yeah.
So we have a question from Hadija. So I want to welcome Hadija from PELUM Uganda to ask a question. After that, Margaret, you'll ask your question. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ratemo. And thank you so much, Samuel, and also Sylvia, for the wonderful presentation. They are very, very, very good questions. I'm seeing, I think it's Margaret. Ratemo, is it Margaret who has asked them? Marali, that's Margaret. Okay. Okay, they are very key. I'm just so excited to get the responses for them. But also what I wanted to share is we have groups in, especially in Uganda, that are very strong or practicing agroecology versus organic farming. And we have not yet had any certification on agroecology. So we have a challenge of our farmers as being assessed and certified, being assessed on organic principles versus agroecology principles. So for such a case, I would like to ask Samuel if he could advise on what us as Uganda can do about that. Do we proceed assessing our groups as per the agroecology principles or organic principles? Then another one is on I had written some questions here on certification of PGS. Where does it have to start and where does it end? But I'm just seeing Margaret's questions, once responded to, will really inform the questions I had. Thank you.
Maybe, Margaret, you can ask your question so that Nongo can just answer at once, and then I will go to our Facebook questions. So Margaret, please read out your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ratemo. I have some flu, so I was running away from asking them orally, but here is an opportunity. Thank you so much, Samuel, for the very interesting and great presentation, and also Sylvia, although I joined late for Sylvia, but I caught up with what she presented. Thank you, well done. So my question is actually, actually for the sake of others, just to understand as well. They are, what is the certification process of PGS? You know, you mentioned some elements of PGS, and who does the certification in that case? And then what's the difference between the PGS, any PGS label? Because you also say the groups can, you know, form their own seals and labels. So what's the difference between the PGS label and the Kilimo High mark? When do we use which one? Which one do we use when? And then my other question, I think still on the same, what's the certification process for now using the Kilimo High mark? And who should facilitate the PGS establishment to the level of now a group saying that they've been certified as PGS group with their name and their label? Thank you.
Thank you. I welcome Dongo. You can start answering the questions from Hadija and Margaret.
So thank you, Margaret and Hadija, for the good questions. I think they are very interesting questions. About agroecology principles and organic principles. You know, for me, you know, I don't have a clear answer for this, but you know, my agroecology principles, yes, but we don't have agroecology standards. So you can actually not certify a farm to be a certified agroecology farm, but because organic as a concept was developed earlier, and it was taken over by governments, and it has evolved over time. So therefore we have organic standards, and therefore a farmer can be certified using organic standards, because you don't do certification using or in line with principles, but rather we certify using the provisions of the standards. So I think the principles comes in when, for example, you are doing production, yeah, but they don't move into certification because they have not been interpreted into standards. But when you look at the standards, they actually reflect a lot on the principles. And because we don't have agroecology standards, therefore we move with organic standards because that's what we have. And in any case, agroecology and organic, they're not different. Yeah, they're the same. If you look at agroecology principles and you look broadly on the organic principles, they have a lot of convergence. That's how I answer that question. The certification process of PGS, of course, PGS starts with farmers coming together, forming a group, being trained to be organic farmers, developing a common management structure, and then they are trained on how to develop a participatory guarantee system, where they are also involving other procedures, and in terms of that, the person who is facilitating could be an extension staff. He can request and then when we do, we give an approval that the PGS is actually following the, the principles and the features of a PGS. So currently, as SPAN, we are the ones who are doing the approval of PGSs in Kenya. The difference between the PGS label and the KILIM High Mark, yes, is a difference. PGS normally requires groups to come up with their own PGS label, which they can market their customers to create identity for themselves because they are locally based. KILIM High is a national mark. So if, for example, the PGS groups want to graduate and start selling their products in the supermarket, then they will benefit by using the KILIM High mark because it is promoted nationally. And therefore, people will be able to know or to associate their products as organic when they see KILIM High mark. But if they are marketing locally, then they can use their own label. They don't need to use KILIM High mark. And how you get KILIM High mark is simple. You have to be either that third-party certified or to have a PGS. Once you have that, because KOAN has registered KILIM High mark as a trademark, you just write an email to us, and then of course we'll ask you, for example, for your organic certificate, and then if you are PGS, of course we will know that you are PGS group. And then we have a contract that we'll share with you. You sign the contract, and then we allow you to use KILIM High mark. We would like to manage the way KILIM High mark is being used to avoid misuse by people who are not doing organic farming. So who should facilitate PGS groups? It can be facilitated, and that's why we have this multiplier training, so that multipliers can also be facilitators of PGS, because they can facilitate the PGS groups, and then after that they can invite KOAN to come and do the assessment for PGS. We are also undertaking as KOAN, I think, also together with the PELUM Kenya, and we are also inviting BioVision. We'll be facilitating a training for PGS assessors, so that and facilitators, most likely from the month of April, May, and this course that we'll be offering is to train a group of assessors who will be assisting in PGS assessment, and they'll be coming from the different organizations who are doing facilitating organic in Kenya. So that will be coming very soon. So I think, Latemo, that is what I can say for those questions.
Thank you. We have many questions on Facebook. I want to straight ahead and read. We have 3 questions from Kip. The first one, how long does it take for an inorganic farmer to completely be verified as organic? And then the second one is, how long does it take for the impurities from inorganic inputs to get completely depleted in the soils? I think it's the same question in terms of conversion to organic and the soil being pure organic. Then the last question from him, how can he ensure or go about a farmer with livestock being verified as organic, yet she or he rears livestock inorganic, about its manure in the farm? I think he means, like, we are saying the farm is organic, but the livestock must not be organic, yet the manure used by the livestock is used in the farm, something like that. You can take some questions or even get Esther or Grace to assist. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe I can talk about conversion period, and then maybe Esther can help me on the livestock. According to the standards, the major standards, organic standards we have, they put a conversion period for annual crops. Annual crops is crops which have the short cycles for less than 1 year. They put it as at 2 years. And for perennial crops, crops which have their production cycle for more than 1 year, they put it for 3 years. And this, according to the studies which have been done, is a time when, if you are using chemicals on your farm, they will have broken down, and therefore you can't get traces of chemicals on the soil. So, and that is the timelines that we use, because that's what is provided by the standards. Of course, if you have not been using chemicals intensively, the breakdown of chemicals will take short time. It will not be the 2 or 3 years, as I have said, it will be less years. But according to the standards, it has to be 2 years for annual crops and 3 years for perennial crops. Maybe Esther can try to answer the issue of livestock.
Can I have the question again, please?
Yes, I can repeat the question. So the question is from Kim about how can we ensure or go about a farmer with livestock being verified as organic, yet he or she rears livestock in organic, about manure. I think he means we are saying the farmer is certified organic, yet the inputs, which are manure from livestock, the livestock are being reared inorganic. So how do we go about that?
Of course, that is a controversy. If an organic farmer is rearing his animal in not in an organic way, like for example, they are zero grazing, they are feeding them with the concentrate, they are giving them things like hormones, or they are not even giving hormones, like, but giving them some drugs, and that same manure is used to feed the organic farm, then there is a lot of contamination, and that is where Mr. Dongo was talking about contamination using the chemicals and drugs that we give to the animals, even the antibiotics. So I am not so sure if I would really certify that farm as an organic farm. Yeah.
I just wanted to add that as I is saying, if manure can be handled properly, for example, the farmer is not spraying near where the manure is, then there is no problem. Because if, for example, the livestock was injected with antibiotics, even if you will get that in the animal waste, there'll be breakdown before, for example, when you do compost, it will break down, and before you take it to the farm, there'll be no traces of those antibiotics. So unless you are spraying near the manure, if you handle the manure and you do composting, yes, it will be allowed that it will be used on the organic farm. And therefore the farm will be organic, although the livestock is not.
Thank you. We have another question. I think this one is for Dongo, since you work with Coan. From Elephants, certification of smallholder farmers who are going to synthetic fertilizer and pesticides and will remain difficult in Kenya due to lack of information or capacity building, scant government support, and high costs of getting certifying documents. Do we have data on certified organic farmers in Kenya?
Yes, we do have data. We collect data on organic production and markets as Coan. Though we can't say that we have very exact data, because we also have challenges collecting data. For example, we know that currently we have about 48,000 farmers who are certified organic and participating in export markets and also local markets. PGS groups, we have 25 groups with about 600 members. So we do have those statistics available. That's what I would say. We are planning to have a way of publicizing this data and statistics, which we'll be doing starting this year.
Yes, another thing, when I went to KCOA website on the maps, I saw they have a map where it shows the organic farmer where they are from. Maybe once they populate all the data, they'll share to all our multipliers and all our participants online to learn where our organic farmers are. If I'm not wrong, Nomo, there's some information on your website on some farmers and markets available.
Sure, that's true. We also do that on our website.
Yes. So there's a question from Hadija. What could be the implication of cross-border certification process? For example, KCOA certifying a PGS group in Uganda for a KCOA high mark. Yes.
Yeah, I think we will be having a more broader discussion on this issue because the KCOA high mark in Uganda is registered by Nogamu. They are the ones who are custodian in this. We are supposed to have joint management committee being activated. We are going to do that this year. I think we had a discussion at the regional steering committee on this. And also during a planning meeting with PELUM Kenya. And the aim here is to come up with a way forward on how Nogamu can be helped or assisted and work together with PELUM Uganda on this issue. So I think for now we may not be able to do that, but we'll facilitate a discussion between the Nogamu and the PELUM Uganda so that you can work out a way of also helping or working together on the issue of PGS and KCOA. That's what I would say on that issue.
Thank you. Hadija says she looks forward to that discussion, so you'll keep her on the loop. So there's a question from Maureen Minor. This one I want to throw it to Esther because you have a PGS group certified. So what happens, Esther, confirm you're online, you're listening?
Yes, I am.
Okay, there's a question from Maureen Minor. What happens when certified farmers stop doing organic? And do we have such cases? And how often do you revisit the process? Yeah, you can answer.
As Mr. Dumo said, we do annual PGS peer review. As it was explained properly, that each group and each PGS group has their manual. That manual has the sanction, the compliance and the action for non-compliance. And they have indicated clearly if the farmer has gone back to conventional way of farming, how what will be done to her or what will happen to her. So for many people, those who go back, they have a manual that says those who have done mistakes by not knowing, possibly they can be given to go back for training, like for after and a suspension of 3 months or 6 months, and they should come back when they have been trained again on organic farming. Others are completely suspended from the PGS. This will depend on what the manual says about the sanctions. I don't know whether I've answered that question properly.
Yes, I think you have. You said about each group has their own set of rules with consequences, and they also have internal review committees. So these internal checks, internal control systems actually ensure that everyone conforms to the rules that have been set. So the question, this one I want to throw it to Deritu. Deritu, confirm you're online with the question. I want you to answer.
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, the question from Galmaga. Do you have any link on hybrid male gala goats for breeding being asked by some farmers? Do you have any contacts for male gala goats for breeding purposes?
Currently, we don't have, but I would suggest that they contact other organizations like Slow Food, who are very well versed with the breeding of livestock, especially with the very local animals like the Maasai, the red Maasai goats. I think they are very relevant with that. For now, at GBIAC, we don't have.
Thank you. So our participant, please reach out to Alphonse. I think he's also on the chat. I'll also contact you for the connection. Now, there's a question from Masiza. On the inorganic livestock manure, the only way is making sure you compost. I think that's just an answer. Let me check if there are more questions. I think people are now more satisfied. There are no more questions from the Facebook chat. So we have finished the Q&A session. But I want to open the floor for the people here online on Zoom. Do you have any other question for our trainers before we finish? Okay, if not, I'm seeing a comment from Dominic in terms of providing a certificate of participating for Multipliers. That one I'm going to reach out, ensure that you register your email. I'm going to post it on the chat. Please ensure you register so that in case we produce, you don't miss out. We have not produced yet, but we are going to have internal meetings at PELUM Kenya with our master trainers, and then we'll let you know on email. So ensure you register your email and names there. Now, I want us to finish the session for today. Apologies, we went overshot by 25 minutes, but I think this topic is very, very necessary because as much as we are seeing our farmers to produce, where are they selling? So we need to understand more about organic markets and certification. And I believe all of us, we have learned something, either something new or an addition to something you did not know. So for now, I want to request Nongo to stop projecting, and then all of us who are online to turn out to switch on our camera so that our participants know who was online, who was the trainer, who was the support. Yeah. And then we invite Nongo for a parting shot before we finish. And then I invite Margaret to say something from the Vision Africa Trust. And then also I'm going to invite Eritu to say something on behalf of the master trainer because this is the last session of the online refresher. Thank you.
Thank you, Ratemo. I hope the participants can be able to see me clearly. I think what I can say is certification or the issue of guarantee system is quite important as an interface between the producer and the consumer, because the only way we can be able to talk to our consumers that the produce that we are producing are organic is through a credible guarantee system. And I would encourage our master trainers, especially to work towards having their groups PGS approved. Prepare the groups. Of course, now we have some knowledge, some skills that we have done through our trainings and also this refresher course. So please do that. And in case you have any challenges, you can reach out to myself or any of the master trainers, and we can assist you to form a PGS group and to have it approved as a PGS group. So thank you very much for participating, and look forward to more interactions and ensuring that we expand the organic products in the market. for the
Thank you.
future. Thank you.
You have heard from Mr. Novo. You are now master trainer. As much as you are trained as multipliers, right now you're in the level of master trainer. So please ensure whatever content you've learned, you take it to your farmers so that they can also impress PGS. Yes. So I welcome Mr. Derito to say something on behalf of the master trainers. Mr. Derito.
Thank you,
please
Ratemo. Yeah, thank you, Ratemo. I'm very much grateful for the opportunity that we've been given by PELUM and Biovision Africa to be able to train and to teach the farmers so that everybody becomes versed with good agricultural production systems. And as you have seen, I think everything revolves around the soil fertility management. How, because soil is the basis of everything that we have been talking about. Even if it's issues to do with certification, I think the foundation is the soil. If you build your soil very well, then you'll avoid all the problems that are there on the chain, so that now you'll be able to produce very healthy crops and very healthy food. So let us think about the soil first, and then everything else will follow suit. So I want to appreciate all the multipliers and know that we are now going back to the field and to our farmers so that we impart this knowledge to them. And in case of any problems, any challenges, I normally say that we are not experts because everybody knows something. So we can be able to share, all of us, at least something that we know. Thank you so much, Ratemo.
Thank you. I just want to give Esther a chance to just say something before Margaret. Esther?
Thank you so much, Ratemo. I am so happy, especially for the multipliers who have committed to complete the course. I know it wasn't so easy to commit 2 hours every day, especially the morning hours where you have a lot of work to accomplish. But I believe you have learned a lot. So I'm wishing you well. Anytime you need any clarification, we are there. We are there to support you. And don't feel like you will be on your own. We will be together. Just make it known that you need our support. To master trainers, you are so committed. Well done. Thank you. Thank you, Ratemo. You're such a good girl.
Thank you. So, Margaret, do you mind switching your camera on and saying something on behalf of the Vision Africa Trust?
Okay. Oh, on behalf of Vision Africa Trust, I think I would like to applaud our master trainers, really knowledgeable, and they've been able to, tackle the subjects. I recall from where we started in just introducing agroecological principles, then soil management, IPM, livestock integration, and now going beyond, what production now, and bringing the issue of markets and certification, which is now really supporting the farmers who want to participate in the market. So I think for me, I want to say that we are really happy and the work that you have done and you are doing. Really, and you can see people have connected even abroad, Hadija from Uganda and even from other countries. So, and it has been really an interesting journey, I would call it, and very, very informative. And I believe even the topics that had already, started getting blurry in the minds of our multipliers and any other participant online has become a bit clear. And we are really happy for the work that you are doing, really, and we appreciate that a lot. So let's continue supporting our multipliers and also our multipliers to support our farmers, even the master trainers. They are supporting our farmers at the grassroots and local levels. And just like as Ndongo said, for certification, it's really key because it's a marketing tool where we offer quality assurance to our consumers, and the consumers are even ourselves here. But for the farmers who want to, you know, produce and consume in their households, yeah, they may not really require certification. But bottom line is that we need to help our farmers who want to participate in markets now that they have this knowledge of producing agroecologically or organically, and enable them to participate effectively, being market oriented, you know, because different markets require different things or they have different demands. For example, if they want to participate in export markets, we support them in, you know, establishing the ICS as we have been taught, you know, and if they want to, you know, participate locally there, they can, you know, take advantage of the PGS, which has become quite topical, yeah, and support that. So for me, I think I'm really happy, and I would like to applaud and say well done. And I think this was a really nice activity or initiative or intervention. And I also want to applaud Ratemo for also organizing all this together with our master trainers here who have really facilitated very well. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, to conclude, I want to appreciate our participants, our listeners, multipliers. The first thing first, organizing all this requires your support, because if you are not there, you don't have people to disseminate to. Number two, all this content will be available. I'm going to share emails through the email that you shared on the link. So all the presentations will be available to you. All the links to the live stream will be on our Facebook page as PELUM Kenya for future reference. So you can still continue to share to other participants. And then for PELUM, we appreciate our master trainers for the support. They are the ones who prepared all the presentations. They are the ones who have facilitated. They are our experts in terms of organic. So thank you. And now in terms of the next steps, for PELUM, we also have some monthly webinars we are going to do with our master trainers. So I'm going to share the schedule. It's going to run from April up to December, once a month. So on different topics on organic. So I'm going to share that on our Facebook page. So if you're interested, you just join through Facebook. So in case of any questions, please feel free to reach out to our PELUM social media handles. In Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, we are going to respond to all your queries. So for now, I want us to now conclude the online refresher, and I applaud all the participants who have supported us since day one. We are now on day 6. And not forgetting our funding partners. And you know, all this is also through resources that our donors have supported us by Vision Africa Trust through GIZ. So thank you so much. For the project Knowledge Hub for Organic Agriculture, we appreciate all the stakeholders who have tried to avail resources for us. We have FIBO, we have Access Agriculture, we have Infonet. Thank you so much. And all the links we are going to share to our multipliers. So thank you so much. And I think this is bye, but not, we are going to see each other in the next monthly webinar. So thank you. So we can say bye to our listeners. So bye-bye. I'm going to stop live stream.
Ratema, I wanted to ask a quick question. The participant able to receive the presentations? Can they be shared?
Yeah, I'm going to share because they registered with a link. I'm going to share to that email. We have more than 400 registered participants, so all of them will receive. I think I'll stop sharing on